What does freedom mean to you? Does it mean the freedom to choose? The freedom to have a family and raise your kids according to your own values? What about living a wild, adventurous life, experimenting with music, relationships, or art? What does freedom really mean? What if freedom meant something that only a few Americans still understood? What if it meant that your choices and your values were set by you, rather than by some politician in a far-off capital? Some people think we're only free to choose to live exactly how they live, by their moral code, or their narrow worldviews. But if liberty means anything, it means that you, and you alone, have the power to exercise your rights to which the laws of nature and nature's God granted you. It's time to put these principles back into action. It's time to restore the American dream, activate in our communities, and take our country back. It's time to wake up, America. Good morning, Rise in Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We're glad to have you here. I've got a great show for you today. At the top of the hour, we're going to speak to Alex Nestor. She is the investigative fellow for Parents Defending Education Action about a children's hospital right here in Missouri that advised a school district to not require disclosure of students' chest binding to parents. Yeah, we'll talk about that here in just about a minute. And coming up at 7:35 this morning, John Miltimore, the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education, to talk about Steven Crowder complaining about the type of contracts that are being passed off to conservative activists. He says that big tech is in with big con. We'll talk about that at 7:30 this morning. And at 8 o'clock today, Judge Andrew Napolitano joins us to talk about comments made by President Joe Biden about how police need to be retrained on the use of deadly force. What does that mean? Shoot him in the leg? We'll talk about that at 8 with the judge. And at 8:30 this morning, all my homies hate Pitbulls. Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire says Pitbulls need to be banned. Well, I don't know if we need to go that far, but it's probably time for us to talk about these dangerous dogs and what they mean in our communities. But first up at the top of the show, let's invite my next guest for her very first appearance on the show. Her name is Alex Nestor. She is an investigative fellow at Parents Defending Education Action, and she's joining us right now. Good morning, Alex. Thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So I saw the story yesterday. A friend of ours sent it over. A shock to see something like this happening in Missouri, but I guess I should be less so because of all the news that's coming out. Children's Hospital advised school district not to require disclosure of students' chest binding to parents. What's the background on this?
So, Austin, I love that you bring up the point about, why is this happening in Missouri? And really, this is happening everywhere. So what we found from the results of this public records request is that there's a gender clinic, a pediatric gender clinic in St. Louis, and the doctors there advised a school counselor to, not require that parents are informed if their kid uses a chest binder at school. The counselor was inquiring about a few different things specifically related to kids using chest binders at school. One was, whether parents should be notified. And another question was whether, other teachers should be notified if they're wearing them in class, specifically gym class. And the counselor admitted that there had been several cases of kids wearing chest binders in gym class and then fainting from them. And in this case, the doctor at the pediatric gender clinic in St. Louis said that the district should not require that parents are informed when this happens. The bottom line here is from us, we think parents should be informed about all decisions related to their kids, especially in this case where kids' health has been on the line at school. Parents should be informed, and it's really unconscionable to exclude them from these conversations.
Alex, how did we find out about this story?
So we have been filing some public records requests into school districts across the country, and specifically related to their connections with transgender centers. We have found that the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia has given trainings to teachers across the state of Pennsylvania on LGBT issues and have advised teachers there to, again, exclude parents from these conversations. We've also seen similar things in California. And so, we've been filing these in school districts across the country to try and figure out, how many have these connections to transgender centers and what are these centers telling schools. So this is an ongoing investigation from Parents Defending Education. And like you had mentioned, why is this happening in Missouri? How is it happening in Missouri? We're looking everywhere because if there's one trend that we've seen from the past 2 years is, you're not safe regardless of where you live. If you're in the Midwest, just because you don't live on the coast doesn't mean that you're safe from this ideology in schools.
If you are just tuning in to the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to Alex Nestor. She's an investigative fellow at Parents Defending Education Action. We're talking about a children's hospital here in Missouri that advised a school district not to require disclosure of students' chest bonding to parents. I'd like to get in a little bit more detail about those centers that you were discussing, but before we move off of this topic specifically, Alex, talk to me a little bit about this situation. So, chest binding, right? So, what we're talking about here is young women who are, wrapping themselves up, essentially sort of corseting, but rather than sort of trying to appear more feminine, they're trying to appear more masculine. And there are some health risks associated with this. And a hospital is saying, don't tell parents.
Well, that's right. So what chest binders are, they come in different forms, but typically they are just a very tight sports bra like undergarment that biological women use to appear more masculine if they want to, transition socially to being accepted as a man. They often wear these to flatten their chest. So that's what a chest binder is. And yeah, I mean, this gender clinic gave the school a document on, safe chest binder usage, which included on there that, these young women shouldn't be wearing them while participating in things like gym class because they are very tight and they could constrict, a child's breathing. So, and I'm not saying, there are tons of different types of chest binders out there, but, in this scenario, we are seeing that these kids are wearing some super, super tight undergarments that are causing them to faint in gym class. And, parents are not being informed about this. That's pretty insane coming from a doctor who, let's not forget, doctors are supposed to care for the health and well-being of all of their patients, and not hide things when kids are suffering physically from things like chest binders.
Who's behind these transgender centers? What are they all about? What's their ideology? Who's funding them?
So, I mean, these are popping up at hospitals across the country. It's pretty unclear if there's some, mass group that's funding them. But what we do know is a lot of these doctors, they go to similar sorts of conferences that, kind of have the same, guidance for them. And some of this guidance can stem from groups like the Human Rights Council or the Trevor Project. Both of those organizations explicitly say, in their model transgender guidance for schools that parents don't always need to be notified about when their child decides to live as the opposite sex in schools. So you have some of those organizations that influence a lot of the policies that gender clinics and that schools promote. But really, to me, what the most interesting thing is about the gender clinics is one, how much they're popping up all over the country. Like the percent increase in the number of gender clinics is on the rise, as is the percent increase in minors receiving treatments that, we really don't have any long-term studies to show what these treatments are going to do to these kids when they're adults, when they're older. What we do know is that, in adults who transition, you often see issues with muscle mass, you see bone density issues, but there really isn't a lot to show for what happens to kids after they take hormones, after they transition sexes. So yeah, I mean, these gender clinics are popping up everywhere. Many of them, like this one, are pediatric transgender clinics. They're transgender clinics aimed, at children, at transitioning children, at giving them drugs to do so. And we really don't know the long-term effects of these, of these drugs, of these treatments.
You're just tuning in to the Wake Up America show. I'm speaking with Alex Nestor. She's an investigative fellow at Parents Defending Education Action. Alex, what is Parents Defending Education Action all about?
So, Parents Defending Education is a nonpartisan grassroots organization of parents and advocates who want to eliminate, radical race and gender ideology from schools, eliminate political activism from schools, and really, we just want to restore education in America. And as you well know, over the past 2 years, our education system has really, just been on the decline. Like kids don't, they don't know reading, they don't know math. And we want to fix that. We want, parents to be involved in the process. We want schools to be transparent, and we want kids to receive a good education. That's what Parents Defending Education is all about.
So I imagine that you are personally concerned about how gender ideology is infecting our schools, but I'm curious, what your thoughts are. I mean, other than perhaps some overarching conspiracy of leftists who are trying to indoctrinate our children, there's probably a lot of social pressure and peer pressure that's coming from other young people that is pushing them to want to commit these kinds of dangerous acts to their own body. I mean, these are bigger problems to solve than just through ideological think tanks and through freedom of information requests. We have a deeper cultural problem here, don't we, Alex?
I would say absolutely. And that has to do a lot with social media and kids being on TikTok on their phones all the time. I mean, now more than ever, kids are attached to their phones. And that certainly wasn't, how I grew up. It wasn't how our parents grew up. It's really, we're sort of in like a different age, if you will, of how kids are growing up and what they're exposed to online. And I don't really think it's a conspiracy. It's just, how these algorithms sort of work online. They kind of filter kids into a certain topic that, okay, they spent 5 seconds watching this one video about a trans individual. And so, they received more videos like that in their feed. I mean, that's just kind of how the math works in this scenario. And I think that that has a lot to do with the increase we're seeing in kids identifying as transgender and non-binary and generally within the LGBT community.
Alex, is there anything else about this topic or anything else that you'd just like our listeners to know in general before we let you go today?
I just, want to go back to what we said at first. Like, this is happening everywhere. This is not just on the coast. And really just be informed and be aware of what's going on in your school. We have information on our website at defendinged.org on how to file freedom of information requests. And you can also reach out to us there if you have incidents to report. So I just really encourage parents and members of the community to get involved in their schools and know what's going on in your school district.
That's Alex Nestor. You can follow her on Twitter as well at Alex M. Nestor. We appreciate you very much for your time. Thank you for being so generous, and thanks for fighting the good fight for freedom. We appreciate you, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. What did you think of Alex Nestor? Send us a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I see you're already stirred up about the Pitbulls this morning. Somebody's angry. Why do you hate Pitbulls? I hate anything I want. I hate any stupid, crappy dog. All I like. I hate lots of dogs, right? There's certain dogs that I really like, and there's certain dogs that I don't like. And there's certain dogs that I absolutely detest and despise. And as a libertarian, I'm allowed to have that opinion. Matt Walsh, though, he's a conservative. And he says that we should ban the damn things. And he makes some pretty good arguments. And later on, I'm going to share with you all the best anti-pitbull memes that people sent me yesterday. Because you know what? I'm starting to realize that pitbull people get as triggered as leftists do. If you were to walk into a school of transgender kids and say, a man is a man and a woman is a woman and there are only two genders, it's the same thing as walking into a pit bull owner's house and saying, your pit bull sucks, keep it inside your own house. Please stop letting it out so it bites the children in our neighborhood. There's a lot of out there. Get a lot of reactions. Yeah, I hate pit bulls. All my homies hate pit bulls. Oh, God. Yeah, pit bulls, I hate them. They suck. How about that? Pit bulls. Yeah, all my homies hate pit bulls. We're going to talk about that, but you're going to have to wait until 8:20 when I share with you all my anti-pit bull memes. And then at 8:30, Danielle Pensek is going to talk about how pit bulls are terrible. Compared to other dogs. It's going to be fun. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today.
Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. I'm loving the comments over on the live stream. You guys are making me laugh. Very, very funny stuff. I know Caleb Vanderfeldt is over there calling me out. He knows Tanner Kemna is not going to like this subject today. And you know what? I almost didn't do it because I thought, I don't know if I want to take Tanner off this morning. But you know what? It's in the news. And this is just how I feel about it. You know what I mean? We don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to. It's like saying, oh, I really love video games, and, if you don't like Skyrim, then we can't be friends. I mean, Skyrim's a great game, in my opinion, but if you don't like Skyrim, that's fine. You don't have to like Skyrim, right? We don't have to like the same things. Okay? I hate Pitbulls. I think that Pitbulls fucking suck. I think that they're horrible dogs who have violent tendencies that think children are delicious. And I think that the people who defend them, who are out there like, oh, my Pitty is so sweet, I think that they're kind of just, making excuses because they've had a dog that happened to be nice, right? Purely economic reasons why pit bulls are so dangerous. Anyways, all right, shut up. We're going to talk about why I hate pit bulls later. We're going to share anti-pit bull memes at 8:20 before Daniela Pensac comes in to read off the FBI's crime statistics on the pit bull community. We'll talk about that a little bit later. If you can't piss your friends off, then what are friends for? Exactly. Thank you, Caleb. Appreciate that. Pits are known as the nanny dog. I always thought that thing. Pits are known as the nanny dog. That's hilarious. Pits are known as the nanny dog. Yes. Leave your kids alone with the nanny dog. That's a great idea. Every time we turn around, some child gets mauled by the nanny dog. They're not getting eaten by the dachshunds, right? The Cavalier King Charles Spaniels aren't going out there ripping children's throats out. But every time we turn around, we see child mauled by dog. What kind of dog is it? Even like German Shepherds, you don't see it as often. Or like Dobermans, you don't see it as often as the pit bulls. I gotta stop the pit bull hate. It's a little too early for the pit bull hate. We've got other things to talk about. Like, did you see what Steven Crowder said yesterday about Big Con and Big Tech? I'm gonna play that clip for you here in just a moment. Let's go ahead and go on over to our Twitter weirdness video here, because I've got some clips to show you. This is going to be, first of all, before I show the Steven Crowder thing, let me show you the Donald Trump one. Oop, it's not looking very good over there in the thing. Let's go to studio mode, and I will size this up for you so you can actually see and hear Donald Trump on the phone. Look at this. I'm doing this in real time, baby. This is live streaming, dank memeing, so you can see what I'm doing there. Boom. Okay, let's put Donald Trump up there where he belongs. Take a listen to Donald Trump talking about Ron DeSantis potentially running for president of the United States. He didn't have something nice to say.
Those rallies were unbelievable, and he ended up beating Gillum. And most people thought he couldn't do that, but I thought he could. So I got him elected, pure and simple. He would have never, if I said I wasn't going to endorse you, and I was close, there was no reason to go wild about endorsing him. So, now I hear he might want to run against me, so we'll handle that the way I handle things.
So he says, this is Donald Trump talking about Ron DeSantis here, and saying, if Ron DeSantis decides to run against him, he will handle that the way I handle things. What do you think he means by that? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. Send me a text at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. I think that what that means is, he's just going to buy him off, right? So how does a rich guy handle things? Probably find some way to, make it worth his while, right? I don't really typically see Donald Trump as necessarily, the kind of guy who'd whack him, right? More of a, send him some cash. I saw this video yesterday from the mayor of New York City. We're going to go through some of these clips because I want to make sure I show you these today. No more room at the end. New York City Mayor Eric Adams on the border crisis and migrants coming to sanctuary cities. This is New York City Mayor Eric Adams talking about the New York City policy of being a sanctuary city and migrants coming to their shores. Take a listen.
Our cities are being undermined, and we don't deserve this. Migrants don't deserve this. And the people who live in the cities don't deserve this. We expect more from our national leaders to address this issue in a real way. We learned today, which was very informative, and that's why it was important to come here, that there are websites that are advertising that New York City, basically streets are paved with gold, that there's automatic employment, that you're automatically going to be living in a hotel. There's a conversation among those who are asylum seekers and migrants who are given the false impression that if you come to New York City, everything is fine. We have to give people accurate information, and that's what some of the centers are doing here. They are truly explaining to people that this is what's happening in New York right now. In New York, you go there, you're going to be living in congregate settings, that there is no more room in New York.
Oh, wait a minute. I think that's the key part here. Tell the migrants about what's going to happen if they come to New York. What's going to happen if they come to New York, Eric?
Centers are doing here. They are truly explaining to people that this is what's happening in New York.
This is what's happening in New York for the migrants. Let's hear it.
Right now. In New York, you go there, you're going to be living in congregate settings.
You're going to be living in congregant settings and...
that there is no more room in New York.
There is no more room? No more room in New York? What? Are you... How can there be no more room in New York? That's a big city, Eric. Now I imagine that the left, having a more free view of immigration, they would naturally be upset to hear something like that. There's no more room in New York? All of these sanctuary cities, there's no more room. Have you seen, by the way, how Denver, Colorado is reacting now to the migrant surge of people that have been coming in there? At first, they were like, please, yes, come in, send us all of your immigrants or migrants, or you're welcome. And now they're like, we're having trouble handling all of these people. We don't know where to put them, and we have no idea where they're going to go. Yeah, it's a crisis. And, of course I'm a libertarian when it comes to immigration. But the Democrats aren't libertarians when it comes to immigration. The Democrats wanted to give them all the free stuff so that they come there and they sit there and then they have nothing to do. And then, of course, the conservatives on the other side don't want to allow them to have jobs or allow them to work. So, of course, the situation is verkauft. They can't go anywhere. They can't do anything. They're used to getting handouts. They can't get a job because they're not allowed to work. So it's not a libertarian situation. This is a situation created by Republicans and Democrats, and you made your beds, and now you have to lie in it. All right, let's hear what Steven Crowder has to say about Big Con being in bed with Big Tech before I go get John Miltimore to bitch about it. Take a listen.
Tech is in bed with Big Con.
Big Tech is in bed with Big Con.
The people I thought were fighting for you, a lot of it has been a big con. Now, I'm specifically avoiding naming names or going after individuals in this video.
Of course.
Because I genuinely hope that those I'm addressing, and you know who you are, have a change of heart. Don't sign these contracts. I now know what you are signing out there. I have the luxury of not having to. Let me go through this. If any of the major platforms issues a content strike such that Crowder cannot be monetized on such platform, the fee will be reduced by 25%. And then another 20% of it happens on Apple. And then another 10% of it happens on Facebook. And then another 10% of it happens on Spotify. And then if you get a strike, meaning a suspension, another 20%. Just to drive it home, you get hit by a car, you have a sick day, you could lose $100,000 a day. This is what's sent out to everybody.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk about what those contracts mean and what he's discussing there when we get back. And we're going to do that with our friend John Miltimore. You don't want to miss a minute of the Wake Up America show. WakeUpAmericaShow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupAmericaShow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupAmericaShow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mum, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Happy Wednesday. Glad to have you here today. Well, what was Steven Crowder talking about yesterday that got him trending on Twitter? Talking about big tech is in bed with big con? Is he right or wrong? Let's hear from my next guest. John Miltimore is the managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education and a weekly guest. John, we always love your contributions, brother. Thanks so much for joining us again.
Hey, happy to be here with you, AP.
Glad to have you as well. So, Steven Crowder recently left the Blaze, kind of became a free agent, comes out and says that he's been, fielding contracts from some of these institutions, and takes a look at some of these contract terms and concludes that big tech is in bed with big con. Your response?
Yeah, I'm not surprised by this, and let me just say, going in, a lot of this, what I'm going to say, is speculation, right? Crowder's pretty cagey in that video. He's hinting at stuff, but doesn't tell you who he's talking about. He does offer some contract details and things like that. My hunch was he's talking about the Daily Wire. Like if you read between the lines, I know there's a friendship there that he's had with Ben Shapiro that goes back, and Maybe they were looking at having some sort of agreement where he came on and he took a look at the contract and he saw some things he really didn't like. That doesn't surprise me, right? Like this is sort of the way that media works. As media gets bigger, it gets more litigious. It gets more contracts. I worked for a place that was trying to create a media empire a number of years ago, and they were doing just this. They're going to these small content creators, but successful ones, and saying, "Come on our platform. We're gonna we can sell ads at scale. We can do all these things for you. We'll split the revenues." And I didn't know what I was doing really, but I'm telling these people, come on this platform, and the further you get, then you get the contract stuff. And some people were like, "Oh, no big deal," and they just sign it. Other people are like, "Well, what does this mean?" Um, and that was with a smaller outfit, right? Like one that isn't the scale of some of these massive ones, like a Daily Wire. So I'm not surprised he looked at that contract and balked and said, like, well, this is ridiculous. And normally what you do in that situation is and this is even what we did. People flag stuff. They'd say, well, I'm not doing that, or they'd take it to a lawyer and they'd say, well, this is, and they cross that out. Again, speculated. It looks like that tried to happen and they just said no, which is odd to me. But I like the way Crowder reacted. No, really, like, is there a little bit of self promotion here? Sure. Like, but you can tell he's honest. Like he's a little hot about it. And he just says no. And that's the way these things have to work. There's nothing, contracts are contracts. You have to agree to it, right? You have to go in there and sign it. And that line for artistic, creativity and what I want to say versus how much money I want to, like, that's different for everyone, right? It's different for everyone. You get to decide. So there's nothing exploitive about it. But he's handling it with some transparency, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, the fact is, John, is that he's right in that he's big enough to be able to say no and to call these kinds of things out. He can work for himself and be independent, and he doesn't have to struggle, right? But the thing is that if you're someone in, say, I would say maybe just a little bit below my position, because I'm completely independent, right? Kind of doing my own thing here, and I monetize myself, and I'm able to sustain myself. I'm not like, rich like Crowder or Shapiro or anything like that, but I can, refuse bad contracts. If I was a little bit less well off or a little bit less established in my career, John, I think I would be a little bit more I would be a little bit more interested in seeing what you could get from some of these conservative companies. And a lot of these young people, they don't know to go get a lawyer, John. They don't know that when they're signing away their merchandise rights to these things, that it could be massively a bad deal for them. And the fact is that it reminds me a little bit about how the music industry used to be back in the day when, the early days of Michael Jackson, you'd get like a penny, a fraction of a penny for every record sold potentially, but no royalties in the long term. And a lot of these artists just got completely screwed. And these young people, they don't necessarily know. They're not all YouTube millionaires, and they know that they can just go off and be independent by themselves. A lot of these major conservative institutions, they take advantage of these young people, knowing that they don't have any idea the sort of the gold mine that they're sitting on if they are a true talent, John.
Yeah, the music industry is a good example. You could go back to Hollywood, especially in the early days. A similar framework where the actors had very little power. And let's face it, whether you're in the music industry or the content creation industry or you're an actor, you have dreams, right? You want those dreams to come true, and you're desperate to achieve them. And there is something like people are going to rush in and they're going to say, I got my show, I'm landing it. They might not look at fine print. But that's the individual's responsibility. There's nobody that can say, hold your hand through this. And if there is exploitation, this is sort of how business works. It's the business's job to try to find talent, leverage talent, and to make money. The great part is we live in this environment where it's never been easier to be independent. It's true. Like there's the way media works today. If you hustle, if you're smart, if you learn, you can be independent. You can be successful. The thing is, you have to, it's great. You're not wrong where you're at in your career. It matters. I've always said it's good to have FU money, right? You've heard the term. It's something we all should desire, because I've always said I always want to be in that position where I don't need that job, where I can just say, you know what? I don't like this and I'm walking away. And I did it once in my professional career where I thought my own morals were being challenged. I thought I really felt like they were giving me no way out. And it was the worst time in my life. I had just bought a home with my wife. My wife is pregnant, and they put me in a situation where I felt, and I walked, really. I tendered a letter of resignation. I was locked out of my computer 2 days later, 2 hours later. And it scared me, right? Like all my life suddenly, like I wasn't expecting that. I thought they might say, well, let's talk about this. Maybe they budge. No. But it's the best thing professionally that ever happened to me. I got a much better gig within a month, and it paid me a better salary, and it really set me on a different course. And I would tell all people, young or old, don't be afraid to walk away from something that challenges your principles. Don't be afraid to walk away from something if you think you're getting the shaft. Now, is it scary? Yeah, there's like all of these things have trade-offs. But if you have a dream, don't sign something just because you want it so bad. Like make sure you're protecting yourself. I'm glad Crowder's doing that. He's going to crush it as an independent. I was a little surprised to see him. He's in a really good position right now to do so well without help from a Blaze or whoever. That I was surprised to see him, seriously considering it. But I get it. We all kind of want that safety net too, right? Like we like it when somebody else is kind of covering a lot of our expenses and getting the gigs for us and doing all those things. It's kind of this is about trade-offs, and it's going to come either way, but people have to decide for themselves, which route to take.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking with John Miltimore from the Foundation for Economic Education. We're talking about Steven Crowder trending yesterday for calling out conservative institutions for being in bed with big tech. I think I don't agree with Crowder's analysis that Big Con is in bed with big tech, because the explanation for his analysis was that if he took a contract with a company, we don't know which company it is, if he took a contract with a company and he got a content strike, for example, on YouTube, that would affect the bottom line of that company, and then they would pass that cost on to the talent. I don't necessarily see that as meaning that Big Con is in bed with big tech. What it's essentially he's saying there is that conservative institution, if they take a hit because big tech decides to demonetize a video or what have you, then they lose, part of their pay. That to me seems like, if you're in the position of that institution, that seems to me to be like, okay, well, that's a reasonable, maneuver that they're trying to make to be able to protect their bottom line. Crowder sees it as, well, big tech says jump, we say how high, right? But I mean, at the end of the day, it's really just all about money. It's not necessarily that Big Con is doing what big tech is saying. I'm sure that Big Con, that there are plenty of corrupt institutions that that take advantage of young people in a certain way. But if there's one thing that big tech hates, it's conservatism. And I don't care if you're an establishment conservative institution. I don't care if you're the Heritage Foundation, the Cato Institute. I don't care if you're, whoever you are. If you're anything to the right of Joseph Stalin, then you're the enemy to big tech, in my opinion. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree with most of that. And I think it's smart. Whatever company this is, look, it is your bottom line. And if you have content producers that are going out there and getting all these strikes, you kind of want a mechanism that says, hey, don't do that. It's going to be on you if that happens, because you're affecting our bottom line. I don't, that approach actually does kind of make some sense to me. I don't like it, but I'm not surprised. If you're big media, you want to be on the right side of social media. You want to be on the right side of Facebook. You want to be on the right side of Twitter. You want to be in the room with them, so you can have some control. So you're not getting booted and striked. And we know what it costs when YouTube demonetizes you. So being in the room with them gives you some strength, and it kind of keeps you at arm's length, maybe, from some of these things happening, where an independent doesn't have that luxury, right? I'm sure you've encountered this. I know we have at FEE from time to time, where you get something like, oh, this has been flagged for misinformation, and then you go and you have to fill out forms and try to say, well, no, this is actually not misinformation. You can cite, but it's a big hassle. It can hurt your reach with the audience. Like, we've all lived in fear of this for the last few years, right? You have to really be careful. You have to self-censor, because even something that is right, if it's framed in a way that's wrong, suddenly you get a strike. Suddenly you can't post content for a week. So I don't blame any conservative media company for trying to get in the room with Facebook and YouTube and these companies and saying, we're in bed together, I guess is what they're saying. But that's just smart business strategy to me.
Yeah, agreed. One last question before I let you go, John. I got a curveball for you here, but it is the topic of the day. How do you feel about pit bulls?
Yeah, it's funny. I had this conversation with somebody, as it happens, 6 months ago we were talking. He's got a pit bull and he's got two little kids. And I just said, be careful. I used to be a newspaper reporter, and I remember what we'd get these calls. It was in Florida too. Everybody had pit bulls, and I had several times oh, something goes and kids attacked by a pit bull, and it was always a pit bull. And what I told the guy, I said, I just think that those dogs that are a bit naturally more violent, like it's part of their dinner, is they like they call it in Zootopia, their dinner. But they're naturally aggressive dogs. And my friend says dogs never shown a hint of aggression. And I said, that's what I've always heard. People like the dog, every time one of these dogs attacked someone, it was always the same thing. It had never shown any sign. And so I don't have anything against pit bulls. I don't want to own one. And I caution people, if you have one, keep it on a tight leash, keep it away from kids. I don't
sprinkle any hot sauce on your children before you let them hang out.
Yeah, no, it is one of those. I don't know where that question came from, but that's my take. Be careful if you have one. They're aggressive animals.
And their main dish is typically children. John Miltimore, managing editor of the Foundation for Economic Education. I read it every day. It's fee.org. That's FEE.org. Thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate you, John.
Hey, great being with you, AP. Till next time.
Thank you very much. Yes, pit bulls. Their main dish is children. Send us a text, 573-319-1586. We'll be back. A barista almost kidnapped at a Starbucks drive-thru. Pretty wild video. I'll share that with you, and we'll talk about the Greta Thunberg arrest. The arrest of Greta Thunberg. All that and more on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election.
Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
If I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors, what would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter. Male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers. We have leaders in business.
Is me, you, anyone that wants to be. There is no typical firefighter.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. I see you fighting like pitbulls over there in the comments. Just do me a favor. Don't rip each other's throats out like pitbulls love to do to children. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. I noticed, too, that some of you are saying, Calvin's got a little pit bull in him, looks like. My little French bulldog looks like a little bit of a French bulldog pit bull mix. And you're right. And I'll tell you, Calvin's got some aggression in him. And I think it's that pit bull in him. Every dog he sees, he tries to murder. Except for his brother. But breaking Calvin of trying to murder his brother was not easy. Because the first thing that he did when we brought little George home was try to murder his brother. Now, his brother is a lot more sweet, a lot more silly, but he's more of a pure French bulldog. So, what are we to determine from this? I don't know. I know. Pitbull hate. We've just been discussing it all morning, but we're supposed to be sticking to it at 8:20 this morning. After the judge comes on, I've got my anti-pitbull memes, and then I've got my Daniela Pensac joining us at 8:30. My Daniela Pensac, like she's all mine. No. Daniela will join us at 8:30 to talk about the statistics. 573-319-1586 is the text line. Tell us your thoughts. We'd love to hear from you. What you think about pit bulls. All right. Greta Thunberg arrest is a lie and a psyop. Let's head on over to our Twitter weirdness scene. Take a look at this. Greta Thunberg got arrested for a protest she did for coal mining, and it made the news yesterday. So let's take a look at this arrest and just see how arresty this arrest was. Here we go. Here's Greta. Getting arrested. Wow, looks scary. Look at her smiling and laughing. She is getting a photograph taken. Cops are kind of holding her arm out there. Look at that arrest. Wow. They've got her. Boy. Got that hardened criminal, Greta Thunberg. Getting arrested. There you are. Oh, yeah. Looks dangerous. There she goes. She's being arrested. Hopefully they don't put her arms up behind her back or anything like that. Oh, yeah. Greta Thunberg. It was all theater. It was all a psyop. Here's something that wasn't theater, though. Another video that I saw yesterday. A man tried to kidnap a woman at Starbucks. This is why, ladies, doesn't matter where you are. You think you're safe at work. You think you're safe, somewhere else. Take a look at this one here. This is a video from a Starbucks in, looks like Seattle, Washington. Take a look at this, and this is how this guy attempted to kidnap this woman. Look at that. Grabbed her. Like that. She reached out to, and look at that. He left all of that evidence there. Boom. Give her a change right there. Boom. Grabs her. What is that he's got in his hand right there, coming over the right hand? Looks like somebody's trying to, tie her hands up or something. Look at that. Ladies, I'm telling you, always got to be on guard. Or, you don't have to be paranoid or anything like that, but I'm telling you, you see creeps like this, and look at this. He's got the video. They got the video right there. He's got a Chevrolet tattoo on his arm. They say that he's still on the loose. Take a look at this. Reaches out, boom, grabs her wrist. I don't know if that was something to tie her, but what did he think he was going to do? Right there. Not what we like to see there in the mornings. I got to say, that's some scary stuff. Definitely the kind of thing you got to watch out for. Self-defense. Yeah, zip tie. Probably a zip tie, says Brandon Meyer. Leo the Lard, who's messaging in, says, oh, great, I have to go to Seattle today. Well, if you see that guy with a Chevrolet tattoo on his arm, let us know. Scary stuff. Very scary stuff. I think that, this is just the kind of example that you can see where, it can just, in an instant, your life can change. I'm glad to see that woman was very lucky and that she didn't get kidnapped by that dude. All right, I'm going to go get our buddy, Judge Andrew Napolitano, and we're going to talk to him about Joe Biden saying police need to be retrained in the way that they use deadly force. I think that this is going to be an interesting conversation. We'll talk to Judge Napolitano about that. And then anti-Pitbull memes. It's going to be fun. I know. Go stir you up this morning, get you mad. And then Daniela Pensac will come on with some facts and statistics. She's a Chihuahua owner. You can tease her about that. We'll be back with more on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bush. This is my Didi's website. Now I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bush is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bush is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Didi made Frenchy bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Didi really likes it. Didi said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bush. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bush blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
the real-world experience.
It's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway.
I need help.
You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Coming back. Here we come. Good morning. It's 8:02. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. Why am I smiling? Because I'm already having fun with our next guest who's joining us now, our Wednesday regular, the hero of liberty, Judge Andrew Napolitano, and host of Judging Freedom, who's joining us now. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Austin. Thank you very much for your kind comments. Tell the audience what I said that caused you to laugh. I said that you still have a baby face. You still look like you're 19.
Judge, I think it's just because I stay young at heart and I have hope for the future, and I'm very optimistic. And you know, it's I don't do any kind of skincare regimen or anything like that. It's just natural. So, Judge,
Good.
somebody who's way beyond their years and looks it is President Biden. Yesterday, I sent you this story that the President of the United States has declared that the police need retraining in how they use deadly force. On its surface, when I hear something like that, Judge, as a libertarian, I get excited because I believe as well that the police in this country have become overly militarized and overly violent towards the citizens that they are trained to protect. But as someone who is a gun owner and someone who is trained in the use of defensive deadly force myself, what President Biden has proposed is saying that if you fire a gun, that you wouldn't fire a gun with deadly force, which is the basics. You never fire a gun unless you're firing it with deadly intent. Just what the hell is he talking about here?
I don't think he knows what he's talking about, Austin. I agree with everything you've said. I will also add this to it, and this is nuance. This is not nuance. This is substance. Though this may be a national issue, it is not a federal issue. This is nothing that the federal government should have anything to do with. Now, look, he can speak his mind, and he's got a bully pulpit, and he can use the bully pulpit. But statements like this from the president, and both presidents of both parties do it, you know what it leads to? It leads to borrowing more money in the people's names because the feds have no cash. The cash that comes in goes right out in non-discretionary funding. The Defense Department these days is virtually non-discretionary, but that's another subject for another time. They will spend money. They will bribe the states. Here's New Jersey. Here's $100 million to retrain your police. And where does that $100 million go? You know, to some organizations run by ex-cops who will go through the motions of training the police, or some of it will go to the Treasury of the state of New Jersey to pay its extraordinary bills. It's a waste, and it's a violation of the Constitution, in my view, when the government spends money that it's not authorized to spend in order to bribe the states to comply with what the federal government wants. As to the substance of what he says, again, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Whenever he rants and raves against guns, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not personally familiar with the use of deadly force. Having said that, again, I agree with you. The police use too much force, and they have too many militaristic, I'm going to change that, not militaristic, military weapons that police shouldn't have and don't need. And most of these things are purchased for them by the federal government. They make an application for it. The city government that runs the police doesn't have anything to do with it. So no elected official is voting on this. It's bureaucrat to cop. And they end up looking like they're fighting an invading army when they show up to do their work, and it often results in more damage and more death than is necessary.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to Judge Andrew Napolitano. We're speaking about comments that were made by the President of the United States about how police need retraining. Judge, why do you think that the police in this country have become so heavily militarized, and that their tactics have become much more aggressive towards us?
I think it's the nature of government to grow, expand, control more, seize more, regulate more. It's almost exciting for them. Much of police work is boring, dreadfully boring. But the fact that they can dress up in military gear and move around in military equipment and intimidate the daylights out of people is exciting. I don't know what the next step is beyond this. I mean, when I was a kid, cops were friendly, and you would go up and chat with them. You wouldn't fear them, and them showing up in SWAT gear and ready to demolish a building or kill everybody inside it was just science fiction. Now, of course, this stuff happens all the time. And the courts have responded to this by facilitating it, by continuing to perpetuate the nonsense of qualified immunity, which is you qualify for the immunity by being a cop and being on duty. And then if you kill somebody by mistake, you're immunized. That is, you can't be sued. The town that employs you can be sued, but you can't. If the cop's personal assets were online, just like yours would be or mine would be, if we inadvertently struck someone while driving our car or inadvertently hurt someone while training with our weapons, we'd be a lot more careful.
Judge, I have a question for you that's a bit of a libertarian theoretical. This last couple of weeks, I've been producing a video series called The Guns of the Presidents, where I go through the history of the president's relationships to firearms, talk about guns that presidents may have personally owned, or police actions that may have been taken at their behest involving firearms. And yesterday, the video that I produced was related to Dwight Eisenhower And specifically, I discussed the civil rights era legislation and his behavior in sending the 101st Airborne to Little Rock Central High School. We're talking about the military to enforce desegregation. How should a libertarian like ourselves look at an action like that by the President of the United States?
Well, what he did was unconstitutional and unlawful. I mean, his heart was in the right place. This is after Brown versus Board of Education. This is at a time when the Supreme Court defined as a civil right the right to attend the public school nearest your home or one that would admit you. But the statutes prohibit the use of the military for ordinary law enforcement. There were there were ways for him to accomplish that using a lot less force. How should a libertarian look at it? In our world, the government wouldn't own schools. I mean, but the government schools are dreadful because they have guaranteed income, the taxpayers, guaranteed clients, the students, and virtually no competition. If schools were privately owned and had competition, the cost would go way down. You would send your children to the schools tailored to their needs. It would cost you a lot less than the real estate taxes that you pay to support the schools. But that's not going to happen overnight. With a public school system, using the military to get students past the racial biases of the administrators is almost as bad as the racial bias of the administrators itself.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show, I'm speaking to Judge Andrew Napolitano. He's the host of the Judging Freedom podcast, a weekly guest on our show, and he also writes a weekly column at judgenap.com. Judge, your column this week deals with the relationship between the FBI, the CIA, and the NSA. Just how intertwined are these agencies and involved are they in spying here domestically?
Well, after the Nixon resignation and the congressional investigations, Congress enacted the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which created the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, a profoundly unconstitutional court. It's not even a court because only one side appears, only the government appears. Everything is super secret. The judges themselves are frisked as they enter and as they leave the courthouse. The judges themselves can't even read the decisions of their fellow judges on the court. There are 13 judges on the court, and they rotate through. These are federal district court judges who spend 2 weeks a year or 3 in Washington, D.C., sitting on the court. And this court authorizes spying. So the NSA or the FBI will go to this court and say, we need to spy on Austin Peterson. The standard is not probable cause of crime, which the Fourth Amendment requires. The standard is probable cause of being a foreign agent, lowered to probable cause of being a foreign person, lowered to probable cause of communicating to a foreign person, lowered to probable cause of capable of communicating to a foreign person, which is now everybody in the United States. You call a bookseller in Florence or an art gallery in London, and the feds can spy on you because you communicated with a foreign person. Okay, the theory of this statute was that all spying would be done through the court, and the court would be a gateway to the spying. The spying, of course, the court has turned out just to be a facade. The NSA spies on whoever it wants. In this statute, Congress created the wall between intelligence and law enforcement. So if the NSA is spying on a janitor in the basement of the Russian embassy, and he's not a janitor, he's really a KGB agent pretending to be a janitor, and he's using cocaine to lure Americans into spying for him, a real case, and they learn about this, they can kick him out for his espionage, but they can't prosecute him for distributing cocaine because the wall prevents intelligence from telling law enforcement what's going on. Fast forward to 9/11, the Patriot Act, the most profoundly unconstitutional piece of legislation since the Alien and Sedition Act, because it lets one FBI agent authorize another to conduct a search, an utter violation of the Fourth Amendment, also destroyed the wall. So now post 9/11, post the Patriot Act, which is October 15th of 9/11, if intelligence learns of a crime inadvertently, it tells the FBI, and then they create some fake way to get it to the FBI legally, some confidential source who's really an undercover FBI agent, so that when they go into a courtroom, they don't have to tell a federal judge that they acquired it by unconstitutional spying, and they can use the evidence against him. Initially, the language was if they stumble upon, like the janitor in the basement, the evidence inadvertently, they can use it. Last week, the FBI revealed that during the Trump administration, under the Attorney Generalship of Bill Barr and the directorship of Chris Wray, the FBI wrote a 906 pages handbook, How to Spy in America Without Getting a Search Warrant. Answer, use the NSA and use the CIA. So no longer inadvertently will the NSA or CIA stumble upon evidence. They're now doing this as agents for the FBI. This is such a profound violation of the Fourth Amendment, and yet you didn't hear a peep about it. Not from Adam Schiff, who usually monitors this stuff in the House, not from Ron Wyden, who usually monitors this stuff in the Senate, not from Joe Biden, who when he learned about some of the software the FBI was using, he banned it. Not a peep from anybody. Why? Because American spies have dirt on all these people. I'm not saying they have dirt on Schiff and Wyden. They certainly have dirt on old Joe. They got plenty of dirt on old Joe.
One last question before I let you go here, Judge. Dwelling in the realm of libertarian theory here, I quite frequently hear from our libertarian friends that we should abolish the CIA, and no doubt that the Central Intelligence Agency has committed crimes and has exceeded its proper lawful authority. But my question to you on that one, Judge, is like, is there a proper lawful authority for an intelligence agency to defend ourselves from hostile foreign governments and the spying that goes on overseas? I mean, in our theoretical world that you and I would live in, where there are no public schools for Eisenhower to send the 101st Airborne to, would there be a proper role for an intelligence agency whose job is to protect American citizens from our foreign enemies?
Outside the United States and against foreign enemies, yes. Not inside the United States. I mean, the CIA charter, this is 1947. This is one of the worst acts in American history. The same president that was the greatest mass murderer in history, Harry Truman, by dropping atomic bombs on civilians.
I thought you were going to say Abraham Lincoln.
Oh. Well, if you measure, it's a great observation, and people have challenged me on this. If you measure number of deaths per minute, it's Truman. If you measure total number of deaths, it's Lincoln. But Truman also signed the National Security Act in 1947. Which established the CIA, which prohibited it from engaging in law enforcement or any activity in the United States. The CIA absolutely and profoundly is unconstitutional, should totally be banned from the United States. The military shouldn't be in foreign countries unless we're legitimately fighting a war, and our spies shouldn't be in foreign countries, period. In fact, we shouldn't even have spies.
Hot damn, I love that, Judge. You don't get that take anywhere else on any other shows. Now, listen, I've got to ask you one more question because one of our listeners demanded it. Quest Fanning this morning has a question for you. This will be the last one. He says, question for Judge Knapp. Would any judge be able to issue a bench warrant for an elected official instructing private companies to engage in censorship of a specific citizen? Or is there another method of accountability?
Well, remember, judges can't just issue bench warrants on their own. The government has to come and request it, and it has to show probable cause of crime in order to get the judge to sign it. Is there a crime? It is probably what's known as malfeasance in office. So a rogue FBI agent using his gun, badge, and the phrase FBI to accomplish some personal political purpose would clearly be malfeasance in office, and that would be a crime, and that would be the basis for it. But because we have the separation of powers, judges just can't arrest and prosecute willy-nilly. The executive branch of the government, of which the FBI is a part, must come to the judge and say, here's our evidence about what these 5 FBI agents did last week when they went to Twitter. We want to arrest them. Without that type of a request and application, the judge is toothless.
Boy, that's a great question and a terrific answer. Judge Andrew Napolitano, we love it. Let's talk smack about Abraham Lincoln next week, Judge. We'll do a whole Civil War special and the tyranny of Abraham Lincoln for our listeners. I think they'll really enjoy it.
Yes.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Austin. It's a pleasure to be with you. All the best.
Always a pleasure. That was Harry Truman that earned his ire today. Harry Truman, which I did about his guns as well last week. If you want to learn more about Harry Truman and the firearms that were owned and used by Harry Truman, the only president from the state of Missouri, check out my Guns of the President series. My Guns of the President series is available on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/AP4Liberty. The playlist is there. Check them out today. If you haven't watched them yet, share them with your friends. We'll be back with some anti-Pitbull memes on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamericashow.com.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
American conservatism is distinct, like America is distinct from the United Kingdom. American conservatism's roots comes out of the Wild West, out of pioneerism. The difference between American conservatives and European conservatives is that Americans are cowboys. We are that God, guns, gold, and girls. It's wild here. And we should stay that way. We shouldn't allow a European version of conservatism to come and infect us here. We like it wide open spaces here, deep in the heart of Texas and all that.
Hey there, it's your favorite Vice President Joe Biden. I wanted to talk to you today about the Wake Up America show, the best source for all your political news and commentary. But before I get started, let me just make sure I have all my notes in order. Okay, where was I? All right, the Wake Up America show. It's a great way to stay informed and make your voice heard. Boy, what was I saying again? Oh, right. The Wake Up America show. It's important that we all stay engaged and knowledgeable about what's going on in our country and, the thing. But hold on, where was I going with all this? Oh, yeah. The Wake Up America show. It's a fantastic resource. And if you really want to make a difference, man, you can sign up to be a monthly donor at wakeupamericashow.com/support. Now, where was I? Oh, that's right, the Wake Up America show. So if you want to stay woke and support a great cause, head on over to wakeupamericashow.com/support and sign up to be a monthly donor today. And if you're feeling generous, you can even give a donation in my name. Thanks for listening, and keep on keeping on, America. Come on, man.
Thank you for watching the Wake Up America America show with my dad. Today, I'd like to share with you 3 reasons why you should visit Dad's online store at apforlibertyshop.com. Number 1, you can get exclusive freedom-loving merch designed by AP himself or me mom, Steffi. Liberty Laura has made some designs as well, and blimey, they are great! Number 2, most of these products are so wicked that they aren't even allowed to be advertised on Facebook or Instagram. Modern machine guns and a proper keychain. Plus, our Grover Cleveland t-shirt is so spicy apparently that leftists on Facebook specifically banned it from appearing on the website. Number 3, you're supporting liberty lovers just like you. Spend your money where you earn it, and you help me pups build a community that supports what you believe. Bloody hell, this commercial is running too long. Gotta run. Bye now. Don't forget to visit apforlibertyshop.com. That's apforlibertyshop.com.
Good morning. Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com. My friend Daniela Pensack, she's a field coordinator for Turning Point USA, will be joining us here in about 5 or 6 minutes to talk about statistics on pit bulls. But screw your statistics. I'm here with some anecdotes and some good jokes. One anecdote. Guy here in Jefferson City opens up his garage door. Pit bull comes up, rips his leg off. He needs major surgery and almost dies. Here in Missouri, in southwest Missouri, in Springfield, a pit bull gets out on a playground and bites 15 people. Yes, 15 people. Most of them children. I think 11 out of them were children, and 4 of them were adults. 15 people. One pit bull. 15 people on a playground. How did it get out? Well, you might say, well, it's the owner. That's the problem, not the pit bull. I believe that to a certain extent. It's probably like 65-45. Not all owners of pit bulls are bad people. Tanner Kemna, like my buddy Caleb Vanderfeldt was saying, he's a good pit bull dad. I'm sure his pit bulls have never hurt anybody. But it's kind of like, I was watching this live stream the other day where this like really, really fat chick was talking about like how, guys like thick girls. It's like, people love to point out the exception to the rule, because they want to ignore the rule. And the rule is that pit bulls find children absolutely delicious. And if they can't find a child, then an adult will do. They're killer dogs. What are pointers bred for? Pointing. What are retrievers bred for? Retrieving. What are pit bulls bred for? Fighting in a pit. They're violent dogs. They have a violent nature. Do I think that you can train that out of them? Sure, if you get them at a young enough age. Are most pit bulls coming to people as purebred pit bulls or pure pits from agencies? No, they're not. A lot of them are coming out of violent situations, and they weren't raised correctly, and they weren't raised with the family that they live with. And therefore you have the situations where, like what John Miltimore was saying earlier, you have the situations where people have extremely dangerous dogs and they're not being properly taken care of. Certainly, my wife and I, we can't walk around our neighborhood anymore because there's no leash laws, and so people just let their dogs wander the neighborhood, and people get bit all the time. Children get attacked in my neighborhood. They get bit. We can't walk around. We can't go take our dogs for a walk in the neighborhood at all, because every time we do, pit bulls run full steam at us. I control my dogs. I keep them on a leash. But now as it is, we can't enjoy our neighborhood or walk around the neighborhood at all. We just have to keep our dogs on our own property. Fine, but we do pay for the sidewalks in the streets. We are taxed to pay for the sidewalks in the streets in our neighborhood. So you would think we would be able to enjoy them, be able to walk around the sidewalks, take our dogs for a walk. Nope, we can't do that anymore, because people who have pit bulls are irresponsible. It's not Doberman Pinschers. It's not German Shepherds. People who own those dogs usually take care of those dogs because those are expensive dogs. They aren't giving away purebred Dobermans or purebred German Shepherds down at the pound. They're not trying to get, they're not getting rid of those kinds of dogs for free. The kind of people who are getting pit bulls are typically the low-income people who aren't taking care of their dogs, right? That's not everybody. You might be the exception to the rule. You might be watching this and saying, "Oh no, I make a good living, a good income, and I wanted a pit bull, so I went out there and I bought one, a purebred." Okay, well, you are the exception to the rule. But most pit bulls are shit, and their owners treat them like shit, and therefore those pit bulls go out and treat the rest of the community like shit because that's how they've been treated most of their lives. They've been socialized that way, yes, but socialization is probably 45% of it. 55% of it is probably their breeding. And we're going to get some statistics from Daniela about that. Yesterday, when I was on Twitter, I asked my friends to send me their best pit bull hate memes. And I did get some good ones. Let's take a look at some of the ones. I just happen to think these are funny. And also because people are really triggered. I like when people send me actual pit bulls. Your favorite pit bull song tells you a lot about your friends. For example, if you have a favorite pit bull song, you probably don't have any friends. Very funny pit bull meme. I like that one very much. Let's continue on here. What are wiener dogs bred for? Good question. Mr. Worldwide. I love this one. Report. Pitbull joins Space Force for a chance to bite children on other planets. That's a funny one. Let's see. Let's show more replies because I know we had some other good ones. When your new pit mommy is a childless hag and there ain't no babies to maul in the house. Oh, that's a good one. Here's another one. Heroic pit bull runs back into burning house to bite one more child. And of course, there's always the pit bull lovers who are going to be like, look, my pit bulls, they're sitting there. They're playing. This is the picture right before the attack. As you can see right here, the child is just getting it prepped. The pit bull is sizing up its dinner here. As you can see, this is kind of this is the ritual that they have before the pit bull has its delicious dinner here. As you can see, let's continue on. I saw some really funny ones. Oh, I love this one. They feed us poison, so we buy their cures. How come it's not showing up on the screen up there? Come on. Oh, I see what's going on here. Oh, you guys are missing out on all the funny pit bull memes because I'm not actually showing you this. Here we go. How about this? Now you're actually seeing what I'm talking about here. Pitbull joins Space Force for a chance to bite children on other planets. You've seen this one. I like this one. When your new pit mommy is a childless hag and there ain't no babies to maul in the house. It's a sad pitbull. Heroic pitbull runs back into burning house to bite one more child. Yeah, I know, Ann Henry. Sorry, here we go. I was on the wrong page. Here we are. This is the picture of the pit bull that's playing with its dinner. You can see right here, this is the pit bull, and it's like kind of like doing the whole like pretending like it's injured so the child will get close to it before the pit bull eats her for dinner. I like this one. They feed us poison, so we buy their cures while they suppress our medicine. See, there's some delicious medicine down there. See, they feed us the poison is the dog food. The cures is the medicine there, and then the real medicine is there. It's the baby, which they find delicious. Who wants they children ate? Oh my God, me. See her with her boobs hanging out down here and her two kids, right? And they're very sad about the fact that their mother is going to sacrifice them to be eaten. This one's good. See the pit bulls right there looking at their delicious dinner right before they eat it. That's a good one. Potato or pit bull? That's actually a pretty funny meme there. Can you tell which one's a potato and which one's a pit bull? I can't really tell, can I? 10 minutes into pit bull and chill, and it gives you this look. That's very funny. I like that one. No. Here's proud pit bull owner right there. Let's continue on here. Stories about dogs. No, thank you. I just want anti-pit bull memes. Heroic pit bull braves frigid water to bite child who fell through ice into lake. A very brave pit bull to do that. Stop giving me your tastiest toddlers, he says to Jesus, but you are my hungriest pit bull. That's a good one, Jesus talking to the pit bull. Heroic pit bull rushes into burning building to bite child. We've seen a version of that one. Some pit bull named Princess. I don't think so. Yes, definitely not. 9-year-old. When I grow up, I want to be an astronaut. Some pit bull named Princess. Oh, I don't think so. Okay. All right. I got to go. We've got to go to get Daniela Pensack. She's going to go get all the facts and numbers and statistics that are going to back this stuff up. I just want to goof around. I don't have to actually back up my opinions with facts. No, that's what I'm going to do right now. All right. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
Good morning to the Cantina crew. This is Elon Musk, the CEO of Twitter. And I just want to say thank you for watching the Wake Up America show. I've decided that Austin Peterson will be the new CEO of Twitter.com, effective immediately. First thing to do, though, is I've got to go and blast off into space.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
Conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America Show at wakeupAmericaShow.com. All right, enough with the jokes and the memes. It's time for us to back it up with some facts and statistics. Joining us now on the program, one of our favorite new guests. She's a field coordinator for Turning Point USA. You know her as Daniela Pensack, and she's joining us now. Good morning, Daniela. Thanks for joining us on the program. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me. About the Pitbull discourse, last week Matt Walsh caused quite the stir on Twitter after he brought up the conversation of whether or not Pitbulls should be banned from the American public or not. To cite this, he unfortunately did cite a very sad story of a 7-year-old girl being mauled to death by a pit bull in her neighborhood in Louisiana. This happened a little over a week ago. And so this girl had her whole life ahead of her, and frankly, it was taken away by a lethal weapon, and that's what these dogs are. I want to reiterate the history of these dogs. They were bred specifically for the purpose of engaging in blood sports, namely in dog fighting and other activities known as, less known today, but it's called bull baiting and rat baiting, which is where the dogs had to kill a live bull in a certain amount of time or kill a certain amount of rats within a small amount of time. So these dogs are genetically predisposed to kill and to kill quickly. So that being said, it's no wonder to me that over 40 countries and counting are either outright banning these dogs or placing heavy restrictions on who can or cannot own it. And so Matt just brought up that conversation saying, well, why is the US behind? Why are we letting these dogs just roam free while, over 40 countries and more now are banning these dogs? They are predators and they're a threat to public safety. Now, as a libertarian myself, I understand the argument that says, well, this is just another attempt at the government placing further restrictions on what type of property a person can own. That, of course, extends to the type of pets we own. But at the same time, should we be able to own like mountain lions and large predators? I don't think so. And these dogs have been demonstrated to be like a predator in the public.
If it's going to be regulated at all, it should be done so on a state level or a local level. And most states and localities do have regulations in regards to what type of animals that you're allowed to own, right? You can't have a tiger or a lion or exotic animals without special permits. And I think something like that on a local level makes sense. But I mean, I think for the problem is that people try and make arguments that these dogs really aren't as dangerous as a lot of people try to say that they are. I just went to Google and did a search in the last week for pit bull attacks, and you can see dozens of stories in the headlines. Babies, children, toddlers, crowds of children were attacked by a pit bull that got loose and attacked and bit over a dozen people on a playground at a school here in the state of Missouri. So they'll say things like, well, my Chihuahua is much more vicious than a pit bull. Or they'll say things like, well, what about Doberman Pinschers and what about German Shepherds? They're also bred to be attack dogs, or Lhasa Apsos are dangerous dogs. Just how dangerous are pit bulls compared to other dogs, would you say statistically?
I mean, if you look at the statistics, it's very obvious these dogs are so dangerous. I mean, they account for 7% of the dog population in the United States, and that's being generous. Some statistics say 5 to 6. Let's just say they account for 7. In the last couple years alone, just in 2020 and 2021, they accounted for 6 to 8% of lethal dog attacks in the United States. In the last 30 years, pit bulls have not accounted for less than 50% of violent or lethal dog attacks. So they have never went under 50%. They've always been above 50% of lethal dog attacks. I believe the largest spike was in 2016. They accounted for 74% of lethal dog attacks, while being only 6 to 7% of the dog population. And trailing behind them was Rottweilers, but Rottweilers accounted for like less than 10% of lethal dog attacks in 2016. So yeah, if you just look at the numbers, I mean, it's really obvious that these dogs are incredibly violent. And why is it that when we talk about other breeds of dogs, we do refer to their breed specific history? So like, border collies, we recognize them as herding dogs. Bloodhounds, we know they're used for their scent for hunting. I mean, golden retrievers are retrieving dogs. But when it comes to the pit bull, we all raise our hands and we say, oh, well, it's based on the owner. I think that's willfully ignorant, and frankly, that's dangerous.
If you're just tuning into the Wake Up America show with Austin Peterson, I'm speaking to Turning Point USA field coordinator Daniela Pensack. I asked her to give me a report today about the relative dangers of pit bulls. The reason we're discussing this is because last week, conservative commentator Matt Walsh called for pit bulls to be banned. One of the arguments that people have made, though, Daniela, is they say, well, it's just like a firearm. I have a right to own a gun. A pit bull is kind of like a gun. Do you buy that argument?
No, not at all. I mean, a gun doesn't have a mind of its own. Pit bulls aren't objects. They're live, breathing creatures, and they have free will. And if they're placed in a perfect environment, they will attack. And I just want to bring this up on a little lighter note. I own Chihuahuas. I have owned Chihuahuas in the past, and I currently own Chihuahuas. And one thing I've learned really quickly is that you cannot out train an aggression out of a Chihuahua. It's just in their breed. If you look at the Chihuahua history, I mean, they're extremely neurotic animals, but they're not going to be calm. You can train a dog to an extent, to stop certain behaviors, but it's just going to be specific to their breed. And I think the same likewise goes for a pit bull, except the difference between a Chihuahua and a pit bull is that if a Chihuahua attacks a kid, you can punt it across the room; it will be fine. But you cannot punt a pit bull. They're extremely strong. Last night, I was watching a video of a pit bull attacking another large dog in our neighborhood, and it was tased several times until it let go of the dog. These dogs are strong, they're durable, and they're extremely violent. So yeah, they're not like a gun at all. They are living, breathing creatures.
Exactly. Actually, when we had a situation in my neighborhood where I live, my wife and I were approached aggressively by two pit bulls while we were trying to take our dogs for a walk. They we called the police to talk about what our options would be and how we could defend ourselves. And the police told us, they know the dogs in those neighborhoods, and they said, listen, you can tase them all you want. It's not going to do anything. Maybe get some pepper spray. But here's the fact is that you could even pepper spray these dogs, and they still won't release their bite. They'll just take it until they decide to let go. And the police even told us that some of these dogs in the neighborhood, they've actually shot them, and the dogs still continued to fight them while they were shot, and the dogs got away and lived after being shot. So we're talking about an extremely dangerous animal. And what I really hate is this attempt to sort of gaslight from pit bull owners as if they aren't these dangerous animals. My pitties would never hurt a soul. They'll take pictures of pit bulls and put flowers and stuff like that around their head and say, "Oh, look, they're so sweet, they're so cute." But I refuse to be gaslit about this one, especially the times that they do try and compare them to Chihuahuas and say, "Oh, well, Chihuahuas trying to attack me even more." But like you said, Daniela, Chihuahuas are not responsible for any fatalities here in the United States. So is it correct to say that statistically, I'm going to make sure that I got this right from what you said earlier, that pit bulls make up about 8% of the dog population, but over 70% of the violent attacks?
Yes, it depends on the year, but in the last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, which is the most recent findings I could find, they accounted for 68% of violent and lethal dog attacks, and they were only at 67% of the dog population.
Yeah.
So these dogs are highly dangerous.
Yeah, people have to have licenses to drive vehicles, which I don't know if I'm necessarily in favor of, but maybe you should have to demonstrate some kind of a competency before you're able to own a pit bull. I don't know about that, but they're just giving these things away at the pound, and that's for a reason. Quest Fanning over in the live stream says most dogs are mutts. How would we determine what's a pit bull? One drop rule? Question mark. Yes, that's what I'm saying. I'm a Nazi against pit bulls. How about that? Sig Heil against pit bulls. Daniela, do you think that these dogs should be banned?
Like I said, I am still trying to make peace with that because as someone with libertarian leanings, I do find a little bit difficult to make that argument to completely ban them. But at the same time, I think at the very least, heavy restrictions should be placed on who should own them because it has been demonstrated, like I said, for 30 years and counting, how violent these dogs are. And it's rather obvious that this dog is an outlier in terms of the violence that it produces. And as a dog lover myself, I look at the pictures of these dogs and they are cute. I will admit they are cute if you have a good picture of them. But so I can understand why people will be resistant to this. But at the same time, we have to be realistic. We can't have willful ignorance when it comes to this because these dogs have been proven to be a threat to public safety. And so measures should be taken to do something about it. And I'm not saying we should euthanize these dogs, obviously not, but we need to place, breeding restrictions. And frankly, when it comes to most dog breeds, we should be more mindful of how we breed them. Because if you look at other dog breeds, in terms of the dog's longevity and their livelihood, we see other, the English Bulldog, for instance, they can't breed on their own. So there's so many examples of breeds of dogs where we need to be more a little bit more respectful understanding of what we're doing. But that's a different conversation because pit bulls in and of themselves are a public threat. And I think that's way more pressing and important of a conversation to have. And I'm glad Matt Walsh brought it up because why is it that, like I said, 40 countries and counting have made attempts to ban this dog, but the United States haven't even made a single move on it yet?
Oh, that's a really good point. Daniela Pensack. She's a coordinator for Turning Point USA. Thank you very much for your info on this one. And watch out for that little Chihuahua. I know you got a really dangerous one on your hands, but I don't think you'll be ripping your throat out anytime soon, maybe your ankles. Daniela, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. What do you think of Daniela Pensack? I see that people are over there on the live stream saying, well, whoa, your dog Calvin has got a little bit of pit bull in him. And yeah, and I got to tell you that Steffi and I are going to have a child soon. And that if Calvin makes any move towards the child that I don't like, doesn't even have to attack him, doesn't have to get near to attacking him, but makes any kind of a growl, any kind of a move towards that child, it's not going to be a good day for Calvin. It's going to be a really bad day. And we'll try and prevent what ultimately would have to be done if he did attack my child or anybody's child. But I'm reminded of the movie and the book of Mice and Men, where the lesson was, never let another man shoot your dog or your retarded friend. I guess we can talk about that when we get back on the Wake Up America show at wakeupAmericaShow.com.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Believe me, Austin Peterson is the best. He's got the greatest Wake Up America show I've ever seen. Whenever I tune in the mornings and watch the live stream, let me tell you, he has got the absolute best content. I love his guests. It's just a total blast to watch, and I highly endorse and recommend the Wake Up America show. It's terrific, believe me.
Hello, my name is Kelvin. Welcome to Frenchy Bullshit. This is my Dee-Dee's website, and I've decided to speak to you with my real voice for the first time ever to tell you about how cool Frenchy Bullshit is. But I've decided that this is the perfect opportunity to share with you. Frenchy Bullshit is a good website. You should follow us on socials. If you like Frenchies or any kind of bulldogs, me and my new brother George are going to try to make your life more fun.
Hello, I'm George. My neck isn't really thick yet, but it will be. We are so glad you're here. Please ignore my floating eyeball. It helps me spot predators who might be approaching from the sides.
Dee-Dee made Frenchy Bullshit to review things that he uses on me and my brother to tell you if it's good or bullshit. Take this collar, for example. Dee-Dee really likes it. Dee-Dee said it's really handy because us Frenchies got thick necks. Need something really tough. People think Frenchies are little, but if you look at us from below, you can see we are really pretty buff. Beefcake, yes. Look at my creamy thighs and chest. Yes, you like that?
Big brother, please focus.
Frenchy Bullshit. Please follow us for more great content and read the Frenchy Bullshit blog for more fun and cool stuff.
I'm a public defender.
I am a public defender.
I'm proud to be a public defender.
80% of Americans accused of a crime will get appointed a public defender.
Everybody from a speeding ticket to capital murder.
For every dollar we spend on public defenders, we spend $3 on prosecutors.
Public defenders have to do pretty much everything on their own.
Social workers, counselors.
Investigating is another piece of it.
The average public defender holds 300 cases annually.
You never feel like there's enough time.
Public defenders have health issues all the time.
A lot of people give up and say, I can't do this work anymore.
Gideon's Promise trains, mentors, and supports public defenders.
There are a lot of people who say that they would not still be public defenders, but for Gideon's Promise.
It's fueled me to continue on in this fight.
Gideon's Promise has changed the face of public defense.
People see us as troublemakers.
Good trouble only.
We don't make it easy. It should not be easy to take away someone's liberty.
Ever hear the one about the frog? Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out.
Here's my resume again.
But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. It's a lie. But as a metaphor for us and all that we go through as veterans,
Do you have any real-world experience?
it's a story that rings true. We make excuses for how we feel. We push everything down. We tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. And some days, maybe it is. But you've never been interested in easy. Make no mistake, reaching out is hard. Do it anyway. You're not alone. You've got this. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Good morning, I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching the Wake Up America Show at wakeupamerica.show.com. I see that there is some confusion over in the chat this morning about the rights of animals. Some people think that animals deserve rights, and I am going to explain to you why you are so wrong about that concept. Animals are property, or they're food, and they should stay that way, and I will call upon my good friend Murray Rothbard to explain to you why. Allow me to read to you a page from one of my favorite books, The Ethics of Liberty by Murray Rothbard and the Rights of Animals, and give you a good explanation for why animals do not deserve rights. This is Rothbard's words, it's lately become a growing fashion to extend the concept of rights from human beings to animals, and to assert that since animals have the full rights of humans, it is therefore impermissible that no man has the right to kill or eat them. There are, of course, a lot of difficulties with this position, including arriving at some criterion of which animals or living beings to include in the sphere of rights and which to leave out. I imagine that the people on the live stream, for example, don't think that crocodiles should necessarily have rights. And maybe you do, though. There are not a lot of people who would say that cockroaches have rights. Should cockroaches have rights? Right? Some people would say so. But the fundamental flaw in this theory of animal rights is more basic and far-reaching, for the assertion of human rights is not an emotional one. I feel like they have rights, therefore they have rights. And my feelings care more about facts. I feel this way about Pitbulls, therefore they have rights. We're going to go a little long in this stream today so I can get through this. Individuals possess rights not because we feel that they should, but because of a rational inquiry into the nature of man and the universe. In short, man has rights because they are natural rights. They are grounded in the nature of a man, the individual man's capacity for conscious choice, the necessity for him to use his mind and energy to adopt goals and values, to find out about the world, to pursue his ends in order to survive and prosper, his capacity and need to communicate and interact with other human beings, and to participate in the division of labor. In short, man is a rational and social animal. No other animals possess this ability to reason, to make conscious choices, to transform their environment in order to prosper, or to collaborate consciously in society and the division of labor. No other animals. Thus, while natural rights are absolute, there is one sense in which they are relative. They are relative to the species man. A rights ethic for mankind is just that, for all men, regardless of race, creed, color, sex, or for the species man alone. The biblical story was insightful to the effect that man was, quote, given, or in natural law, we may say has, dominion over all of the species of the earth. Natural law is necessarily species bound. That the concept of a species ethic is part of the nature of the world may be seen by contemplating the behavior of other species in nature. It's more than just to point out that animals, after all, don't respect the rights of other animals. It's the condition of the world and all natural species that they live by eating other species. Interspecies survival, and this is key, interspecies survival is a matter of tooth and claw. It would surely be absurd to say that the wolf is evil because he exists by devouring and, quote, aggressing against lambs or chickens. The wolf is not an evil being who aggresses against other species. He's simply following the law of nature of his own survival. Similarly, for man, it's just absurd to say that men aggress against cows or wolves as to say that wolves aggress against sheep. Man does not aggress against cows. If furthermore a wolf attacks a man and kills him, it's absurd to say that the wolf was an evil aggressor or the wolf was being punished for his crime, right? Wolves don't commit crimes. And yet such would be the implications of extending a natural rights ethic to animals. Any concept of rights, of criminality, or of aggression can only apply to actions of one man or group of men against other human beings. And I love this. This is the real brain buster here for you on this one, for those who say that animals have rights or that they should be extended rights, which is entirely nonsense concept. What of the Martian problem? Think of this. If we should ever discover and make contact with beings from other planets, could they be said to have the rights of human beings? Well, it would depend on their nature, right? If our hypothetical Martians were like human beings, if they were conscious, rational, able to communicate with us and to participate in the division of labor, they presumably too would possess the rights that are now confined to earthbound humans, right? But suppose, on the other hand, that the Martians also had the characteristics or the nature of the legendary vampire, and they could only exist by feeding on human blood. Now, in that case, regardless of their intelligence, the Martians would be our deadly enemy, and we would not consider that they were entitled to the rights of humanity. Deadly enemy, they were wicked aggressors, but because of the needs and the requirements of their nature, which would clash with ours. There is, in fact, rough justice in the common quip that, quote, we will recognize the rights of animals whenever they petition for them. The fact that animals can obviously not petition for their rights is part of their nature and part of the reason why they are clearly not equivalent to and do not possess the rights of human beings. And if it be protested that babies can't petition either, the reply, of course, is that babies are future human adults, whereas animals obviously are not. Not going to say I'm going to eat dogs anytime, anywhere, but their property. All right. Hope you enjoyed that one. Boy, today was a very contentious show. Me and my homies all hate pit bulls. I can see some of you don't, though. You like pit bulls. That's fine. I just want to make sure that you all remember. I never said ban pit bulls. I never said that they should be killed. I never said that they shouldn't exist. I just said that I like to troll pit bull owners because they get triggered like little Nancy boys. And I'm glad we got to clear up some misconceptions there about humans and animals and rights. We'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show. On the Wake Up America show. Oh, wait, one last thing before I go. How could I forget? One last thing before we go. Probably not the best time to do something like this after I've angered so many of you, but don't forget, WakeUpAmericaShow.com is brought to you by our friends at Lear Capital. If you haven't done it yet and you support the show and you still won't hate me after all that discussion about pit bulls, sign up for a free gold and silver packet. Find out more information about how to protect your savings from the Federal Reserve's inflationary policies at learaustin.com. That's LEARAUSTIN.com. And we'll see you tomorrow. Get that gold silver packet. Once you get your packet, I'd love to hear what you think about it. Send us some feedback. You can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Visit learaustin.com. That's LEARAUSTIN.com. And we'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show at wakeupamericashow.com.
I like shooting things, but whenever I can't shoot something, I like to cut things. My life isn't all about shooting and stabbing and cutting, though. Sometimes I have to do actual work, but when I work, I still like to have fun. And there's nothing less fun than trying to cut with a crappy knife. Thankfully, from the ancient sect of Christian knights, who also loved cutting and stabbing, comes a new implement that has received my personal blessing, the Templar knife. Like the ancient sword of Excalibur, you don't choose a Templar knife, it chooses you. You just decide what kind you want on the website first, however, and then order it online, and then it chooses you. The Templar knife comes in a variety of shapes shapes. As a man of culture and taste, I have decided I will never use a terrible knife again. And thanks to the inspiration provided by this excellent product, I have decided to launch a new crusade against anyone using less than superior knives. Join me, brothers and sisters, by visiting uppercuttactical.com/pages/Templar-knives. That's a lot of slashes. For that, you'll need a Templar knife. For 10% off, use code AP for Liberty and join me in a quest for glory, for liberty, for Christendom, for the Templar knife. Get yours today. Fire.
Hello, this is Barack Obama, and let me tell you why Austin Peterson stinks, and you should never pay attention to anything that he has to say. First of all, he's a libertarian, and we all know libertarians are idiots. They don't realize how important government is to everything that we do. I recently became aware that Austin has opened up a libertarian shop at apeforlibertyshop.com. Now, I'm asking you as a personal favor to me that you never ever visit apeforlibertyshop.com. With all of the great Liberty merchandise there, the last thing that we need to do is to get people spreading this message around the country, because then they might start thinking that they don't need government. And that's the last thing that good Democrats like us want. So if you love democracy, like me, and hate freedom, then don't visit AP for Liberty Shop. Like I said, whatever you do, do not visit aporlibertyshop.com. I'm Barack Obama, and I approve this message.
Want an engaging website to boost your business? You're just a click away from 5-star Fiverr talent. Hundreds of freelancer skills like web design. Head to Fiverr.com today and get something started.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I would remind you that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice.
It is better to settle these matters in the courts than on the streets, and new laws are needed at every level. But law alone cannot make men see right.